Okay, good morning, everybody. So it is 12:29. I would like to again thank and welcome everybody to join in the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities for another Business of the Arts workshop series. My name is Devon Lassine. I am the Community Engagement Specialist, and I'm also joined with my colleague, Ron Humbertson, who is in Public Arts. And so before we get started, I will just set a few rules. If everybody can just keep their mics muted, we will go through the program. There will be a question and ask portion to the panel. The panel members I will be shortly introducing. And again, this video is being recorded. Everything will be provided and put onto our website after this showing, so that everybody can be able to access it. And also, so as you can look over to your chat, I have put a few links up that are some things that we have going on at the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities. We have our DC Arts Beats podcast series, which is basically our new YouTube channel where you can find interviews from different arts organizations. We have our director who's been interviewed already, and a couple other people within the community of DC. And then you have, again, we have another series that comes from our graphic designer, Teresa, where you can go and check out those videos as well. And then we also, if you want to go to our website, dcarts.dc.gov, you can see all of the upcoming events that we have, from our showcase, from our CAHA in the community, as well as this series, Business of the Arts. So again, thank you. And without further ado, I will go ahead and introduce our panelists that we have here with us today. So first we have Marcella Krebel. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, Krebel.
You are, yes.
She is an artist and entrepreneur who has operated her own business for 8 years in DC, selling open edition watercolor prints, stationery, and her illustrated cookbooks that celebrate recipes from her travels. A love of art and culture through cuisine led her to launch a creative business which currently operates from her retail gallery on the Arts Walk in Brookland, DC, and online. She has designed visual content for a range of clients, including World Central Kitchen, NPR, and Food 52, to smaller businesses like Little Wild Things Microgreens and Call Your Mother Deli. Marcella is successfully growing her business through the pandemic by teaching workshops virtually, painting murals, and commissioned watercolors, as well as selling handmade products, including kitchen towels and stationery at marcellakrebel.com. Marcella maintains a presence on Instagram at Marcella Krebel and on Etsy as well. So I want to thank her for joining us today, giving us her time and effort. Next up, we have Edward Oliver Jr., who is the founder and creator of EBO Beard Butter LLC and a native Washingtonian born and raised in Ward 7. He started his business in 2014 to provide handmade beard grooming hair care products to men of color. He ships thousands of jars to customers in all 50 states, and he's also gained a following internationally, shipping to customers in different countries such as France, the United Kingdom, Canada, and more. So thank you, Ed, for joining us today in this conversation. And I also welcome you with open arms. And last but not least, we have our last panelist, Shannon Taylor, who is from DSLB DC, DC-based brands coordinator for the Department of Small and Local Business Development. That is what DSLBD stands for, specifically with the Innovation and Equitable Development Division. Within the division, she specifically coordinates the Made in DC certification program that we'll be talking about today, that supports and promotes businesses that design, make, or produce products here in DC. Her tenure within DC government has been a heavy emphasis on small businesses in the community, working with small business community in several regulatory, licensing, special event planning, and public event components. So I want to thank all of the panelists before I give them a chance to, say any words and give anything that I may have left out in their bios. But I just want to thank and welcome you all for the information that you all have. And so I'll start by, in order, with Marcella Krebel, since I'll do it. And you can unmute your mic.
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. I felt like your summary pretty much covered what it is that I offer to the world. The pandemic certainly has made us all kind of reevaluate and pivot in certain ways. And one of the ways that I've grown most is by offering virtual classes, so these workshops online in a platform very similar to this. So I don't think you mentioned that, but that's one way where I'm seeing a lot of growth in my business, which directly relates to my online activity and revenue.
Okay. And next up, Ed, if you wanted to add anything on top of that and let people know anything about who their panelist is today.
Just regular guy, Ed. Well, everybody calls me Ed, but EBO Beard Butter is just a handmade product I created just for the necessity of men who had struggling facial hair. Been able to just grow my following, just really through word of mouth. The only thing I forgot to add in my bio, I just graduated Norfolk State University. Behold, Spartan. So, that's really the only thing that I forgot to put in there, but everything else is spot on. Like, just growing and that's it.
And last up, Shannon, did you want to add anything before we get into the questions for you all?
Sure. So, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Shannon Taylor. As Devon noted, I am happy to be joining on the panel today with a partnership through DSLBD, the Department of Small and Local Business Development. As Devon stated, I am the current coordinator for the Made in DC certification. I will certainly drop my contact information into the chat if any of you that are on the line have ever heard about the Made in DC program, and I will share some more about that throughout the panel. But I will share my email and also how you guys can connect with me if you're looking to connect with DSLBD in any regard, or specifically the Made in DC program.
Thank you all. Thank you all. And so we're just going to go ahead and get straight into it. So I have these beautiful people before you because I wanted to have a conversation with people who actually do the work and that are in the spaces of navigating e-commerce, and basically to have these conversations about how people in similar situations could possibly navigate businesses, as we know that businesses have taken a hit. Small businesses have had an unfortunate series of events due to COVID-19, which I'm sure you're all aware of and that we're still in the middle of. And so I just wanted to have a conversation about how can we all get through this moment together. So as much as our panelists will be sharing their information today, I just want to let everybody else know, feel free to share your information, because this is a space where for collaboration, this is the Commission on Arts, and arts is a very collaborative platform. So I want to encourage everybody to share any information, make any connections you feel like you need to today, because that's what this is also here to do and help you with. So the first question up is, you all have your businesses, you've had them from your bios for a while now, and you've been doing pretty good. And so I want to first ask you all, were you inspired by any framework cues or models for selling online from, say, any market competitors who may be in the same industry? And I'll start with you, Marcella, in terms of that question.
In terms of inspiration from others, I think something that I haven't implemented yet, but I'm really intrigued by, is the subscription model. So this idea that you can upfront basically bring revenue in that can support your present operating costs. So in uncertain times, to have that consistent revenue stream, I think is a really good idea in terms of strategizing and how to kind of methodically grow. As mentioned, I haven't done a subscription model yet, but I'm really thinking about that in terms of doing some sort of an art club monthly thing. So does that kind of answer where you're? Yeah.
I think that's very important in terms of the subscription model. I've heard and I've seen other institutions take it on, especially when you talk about larger media conglomerates. But Ed, what did you have to say to that in terms of being inspired by market competitors, in terms of helping you being able to pivot or just take something that you've seen that may possibly work or just innovate from a market competitor?
I'm also with my competitors. It's not that I really look. I just more so I look at the visual aspects of it, like how the visuals that they put out, and how the people respond to that, and just looking at just the world as a whole, pop culture and things, and that's really like my biggest inspiration I get from looking around at competitors, just more so like visuals and just things like that, but adding my own twist to it. You know what I mean? Just like even with Marcella, with subscription based, with what I do, like that would be an awesome thing. It's just, getting it down packed the correct way, because I know once you step into that realm, that's like she said, it's a whole nother set of income that's guaranteed every first of the month. If you have or whatever you do your subscription from, you will always have that money coming in, especially if you have something that constantly is moving, that people want to keep either purchasing or service, similar to how we offer Amazon Prime. It becomes a part of life. Like, we want that.
Right.
So that's what things like that create that.
Okay. Yeah. And what I'll do is I'll move the question forward to Shannon, but I want to ask her, what advice would you give to the audience about marketing? Your bio, you spoke a lot about dealing with small businesses and helping small businesses within the community. And based on your work and everything else that you do in DSLBD, I would love to hear the advice that you would have for the audience in terms of marketing, say your brand or company or service.
Sure. So I think that speaks a lot to what the Innovation and Equitable Development Division does. So within our division, we are really one of 6 divisions within DSLBD. And our division is kind of what I like to say, boots on the ground. We are the division that is looking to connect and be a major, I guess we'll say a connecting component between the small business community and government, being able to help you to navigate how you can continue to really grow, obtain the support that you need for your business to really be able to sustain itself here in the district. So a lot of through our division, what we do and what we offer, we do a lot of partnerships similar to this one. We also partner with a lot of other agencies that have resources or expertise in some of those marketing tools that small businesses are looking to connect with. One that I will highlight is the DCPL, which is the DC Public Library. They have a lot and an amazing amount of free resources to really help small businesses with their marketing, developing business plans, as well as your social media content. So last summer, we actually partnered with them to offer a 5-week social media content training session. It was completely free. And that was in addition to utilizing their online platform of Linda, which offers free courses as well. So through a lot of our partnerships and collaborations, that is how we support businesses in their marketing. Another tool that I'll say and highlight, we do also offer one-on-one technical assistance for all small businesses here in DC. You can schedule for a 30-minute one-on-one session with myself or someone else in the team to really just meet you where you are, hear where you are, what things you're looking to explore, and then we will just do a deep dive and a dump on you of all of the resources that we have to help you to navigate those pieces, whether it's marketing, whether it's access to capital, whatever those components are that you need as a business. And I would say for us, our biggest marketing tool is our Instagram account. social media is really what a lot of what our division utilizes to really promote and to support and really highlight and showcase those small businesses here in the district. This is Made in DC is the IG, if you guys aren't already following it. As businesses, I know, Marcella, you can speak to this as you are posting and doing those things. Definitely make sure that you're tagging us. We need to know about all of the awesome things that you guys are doing. And we are more than open and willing to really connect with your business to figure out how you can use us as a marketing tool to really get that out to our community, whether specifically Made in DC or our many friends of Made in DC.
Awesome, awesome. That is very, very wealthy. And so from the business side, for like, I would love to hear, again, Marcella can speak very well to this. I would love to hear her advice to the audience in terms of how to go about marketing and what things she may have used.
Ooh, where to start? I think there are thousands of ways that people can market. You can do paid advertising, but if you don't have a budget for that kind of a thing, there's a ton of different strategies for how to get the word out, right? Instagram certainly is a wonderful free platform. If you want to build on that, making yourself accountable to posting regularly by having some sort of a social media calendar for yourself, using plan post platforms like the app called Later or Planoly are two that I've used to just make sure that you are posting frequently on Instagram. For me, Instagram is the main social media platform that I use. It's visual. I'm an artist, so it's really just built for what I do. I don't use Twitter too much. I do Facebook occasionally, but I'm certainly much more inclined to use Instagram. And then the highest conversion rate in terms of all of these ways that I reach out seems to be my newsletter. So I have a goal this year to post, or rather to release newsletters more regularly, and to also segment my my fan base so that I am releasing newsletters that are pertinent to specific types of people. So, for example, I'm an artist and I offer those watercolor workshops. So I do have a certain sector of my market that's really invested in learning watercolor and illustration. So I'll send specific newsletters to them that promote those kinds of workshops and themes that pertain to that. In addition, I'll do more commercial-based newsletters. So things, a new release of a design that perhaps is a series of greeting cards or prints. And so those are targeted at folks that are straight up fans of my artwork and want to invest in me and my art. So those are just two segments, and I'm, it's interesting. You can kind of strategize and try things out. And, I still think that there are more segments there that I could create. And that's something that I'm really experimenting with at this point in terms of the marketing.
Okay. So Ed, same question to you. Right now, it seems as IG is 2-0. Twitter and Facebook is down. So what social media platforms do you use and what advice would you give to people about marketing? Are you going to break the tie?
I use all three because you can tie all three into one where you can skip a lot of the work. We're having to post on each where you can tie your Instagram to Facebook. So if you post directly on Instagram, you can share it to your Facebook as well as sharing it to Twitter. Now, for me personally, Instagram visually has been the best platform. But for my business personally, like Twitter was the one that made it really take off because Twitter is right now access. It's constant. It's always somebody saying something. So it's just creating a buzz around what it is you're marketing because once it goes out into the world, for me, like I became like I went viral through Twitter, which transitioned to everybody going to my Instagram to look at the visuals, which transitioned to the Facebook page, the like page, and then that goes to get everybody to your website to get, the purchases, the reviews, the, things like that. And with marketing, like the best thing you can do is never really, I'm not going to say be annoying, but what I do for Etsy, right? So say if somebody adds my items to their cart, and they leave it there, they might step away from the computer. I have it set to maybe send them a discount code if it sits there or something where, okay, he might want it, but he might not have thought to remember to purchase it. So here's an email that says, well, if you order it right now, you'll get 10% off. So it's more of an incentive thing, because at this day and age with COVID and things, people want discounts or free shipping. So things like that will also bring in more so of a influx of just even views, which if you get 100,000 views, you just need 1,000 people to order it to really make something work. So social media, I'm personally gonna go with Twitter over all of them. But I heard Facebook is really the one. Like Facebook, once you learn how to do the ads, like really the paid ads, if you don't have a budget, paid ads help. Word of mouth still is the greatest ad you can use, just having people see your work, see your product, see your service, and speak on it for you, and then just more so get it so that you can transfer it to your social media platform, so that other customers that might have had the same question or issue can say, okay, well, so and so used it or did her service or purchased her artwork, and that goes a long way.
Okay, and so that moves me into a question that I had, and so Marcella had mentioned something before about customer retention, and so of course everybody here, I'm sure, would love the conversation, but of course in business is money, and we and everybody does it to do that for the most part. And so you mentioned Etsy, and you started going into how to entice people to get that last goal that every business person wants. And so if you could elaborate a little bit more on like Etsy, PayPal, or any of those other platforms that you may have used to get people in. Is it a website? Which ones work better? Just some tips in regards to getting people over that finish line
To
and
get
keeping
people
them.
in, is really, in this day and age in our society, is just the visual content. Like even right now, okay, for people who may be building an Instagram page, right? A lot of people don't know they switched the algorithm. So before it was likes and comments, which will make your post do more. But right now, because you can purchase likes and comments via apps and bots and robots and things, it's shares and saves. So right now, creating the reels is what's really driving the content world. The reels, the visuals, because more people are saving them and more people are interacting with those. So that's really the new thing right now to really, really boost your business, is like the visuals. Like TikTok is, me personally, I never use it. I don't know how to use it, but I watch it because, as you see from a business standpoint, or if I did music, that's the driving force right now. So as a business, you look at what app or what thing is the driving force, especially because they're free. Like Twitter is free, Instagram is free. These are the best platforms because I don't know anybody in Australia, but I've shipped to Australia many times because of social media. So that helps bring in, that that demographic, because before it was telegrams and coupons you have to send out, and that's a lot of cost, that the average person don't have. But you set up an email and you create maybe an email blast like Marcella was saying, and send it out. Next thing you send out 1,000 emails, you get 400 or 500 people to respond or just at least open it, and then you go from there. And with PayPal is more of like just a platform, not really for marketing, but it's safe to use it in a sense because it's detailed. When you create your invoices or things like that for payment, you can give me details to what you want, and it's safe. So say if it's a mishap, item get lost, you can insure it, you can get your money back and things like that. And it's a good platform. What else? People use Cash App. You can use Cash App, but I would go PayPal preferably if I'm going to do business, creating invoices and things. I would use that because it's safer. It's more professional. It's more professional as well.
Okay. And Marcella, same question to you.
So
And
there was a
did
lot
you need me to
there.
repeat it? Yeah, I was about to say. So PayPal, how to get people over the finish line into converting that customer, and you talked about retention, and I just wanted you to elaborate on
So
those
first off,
things.
with retention, and Edward mentioned that idea of the abandoned shopping cart, which is a thing, you know, on any platform, whether you use, you know, Square for your email or your website platform, or Shopify, which is what I use. Most have a plugin for abandoned shopping cart. And so if somebody goes to my website and they put something in their cart and just don't check out, about a day later, they will receive an email from me that says, looks like you left something in your cart. And so that's the same kind of format that Edward was describing with Etsy, which I also use too. So that is a really powerful way to convert sales, that abandoned shopping, you know, utilizing that function for sure. As far as the platforms for, you know, like you're saying, PayPal, you know, there's also Venmo, which I don't think we described before. I seem to be using that more and more. Cash App, I never use Cash App. I don't know why, but it seems kind of a little more old school. But Venmo definitely is up and coming and really is something that people are using all the time. They just also opened or released a Venmo for Business, which has similar processing fees as PayPal and Square. So what else?
I forgot about Square.
Yeah, and so Square I use a lot for in-person sales, you know, the little swiper or the chip, right? So, you know, when the majority of my business was in-person pop-ups and art festivals and stuff, I would use Square primarily as my payment processor. It's super user-friendly. The front-end experience is very clean. You know, you can do invoices through that as well. And so that's been really good for the in-person stuff. And then Venmo now too, like that's definitely going to be something we see more and more of. So.
Okay. And so with that being said, I wanted to ask the question directly to you, Shannon. And so you mentioned earlier Made in DC, the program from your division. And I wanted you to kind of elaborate on that a little bit. And then what are the criteria to become Made in DC certified? And how can one go about doing that?
Sure. So the Made in DC certification, I'll try to explain it really quickly and then share out the eligibility. And I'll also drop a few links in the chat again in how you can connect. I did already put in the chat how you can go about applying and really explore more information about the program if you haven't heard it. So the Made in DC program is a certification program. It is an application process where, again, it started out because council identified that there was definitely a growth and an increase in the amount of businesses that were making and creating and manufacturing things here within the district. So it was created out of statute as a way to really be a promotional tool to highlight those businesses and to help them to access resources to continue to really grow their business here in DC. So through the certification process, it is a two-step application process. The first step will be to just simply visit the website, which I'll drop in the chat again, and it's just www.thisismadeindc.com. There you will be able to see several things. You'll be able to start your application if you're interested. You'll also be able to see our shop local directory. So on the Made in DC website, there is an active directory of businesses that have gone through the certification process and how you can find who those businesses are and to continue to support and shop and buy local. So of course, if your business qualifies, your business will be listed in that business directory. We also, of course, like I mentioned before, do a lot to try to highlight those businesses through our social media campaigns. As well as we recently ran a campaign which was Share That Made in DC Love, where we did kind of one-on-one interviews and highlights with certain businesses to really show the amazing things that small businesses do to support and really boost the local economy. So once you go through the application, the first step you will answer just the preliminary eligibility questions. And for a business to be deemed eligible or eligible to apply, there are a few things. things. The first, the business must be located, or your primary office for the business must be located here in the district. The business does also need to have a current and valid DC business license. In addition to that, the owner of the business needs to be a resident of the district. If for some reason you are not a resident of the district, 51% of your employees, if you have them, can also be residents of the district, and that will satisfy the eligibility requirement. So in the first step of the application, you're pretty much just going to answer some very easy yes, no's to those particular eligibility requirements. And then from there, if you do meet eligibility, you will be sent an invitation to access the online application portal to complete your application. And that would be including all of your business information, public email address, how individuals can purchase from you, whether that's through your direct e-commerce site or one of the others that Edward or Marcella have mentioned, maybe through Etsy or something like that. Some people use, we've even had businesses that started out and actually use the Facebook, a Facebook shop or Instagram shop to really get things going until they're able to launch their own e-commerce platform. So we can look into that. But the application process from kind of start to finish will take about 5 to 7 business days to get you to an approval. And then from there, what we do is more or less welcome you into the network. We want to engage with you. We encourage you to schedule a TA call with us so that we can just see where you are in the process of your business and how we can continue to support. So I'll just highlight again, it is a certification, but the bigger benefits that I like to really showcase or highlight are that you become a part of a network. So now you have a little promotional tool with, once you're certified, you will also have access to the Made in DC logo that you will be able to put on all of your business marketing as well as packaging if you choose, so that individuals know that you are a local business and you're doing those things here. I will say that the support and shop local is definitely a big initiative, and people are actively looking to support those small businesses. And then in addition to that, because you now have that stamp, it will help to open up opportunities for you to have channel retail partnerships, whether through curators throughout the city that are specifically looking to showcase and sell and be a business driving tool for those small businesses. Some that you might have heard of is Shop Made in DC, not directly connected to us, as well as like Steadfast Supply, your Femme Fatales. They tend to be collaborative businesses that look to support and highlight those makers. So of course you now can apply for a lot of those if that is a requirement for some of those opportunities. And then it just opens you up to additional network, much like Edward and Marcella. They are a part of the Made in DC certification. So now they know how to go about connecting with other businesses, whether to look for potential partnerships or collaborations or any of those opportunities. You now are a part of that network. Does that cover?
Yes, that was
Okay.
very rich.
Perfect.
So I appreciate that. And what I want to do for everybody in the room currently, again, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being patient. We're going to get to the Q&A portion because I see the questions. I have a few written down, but I just wanted this to be as rich as possible before we got into the Q&A portion. So give us a few more questions, bear with us, and then we will go through the chat. And so if you all just want to go ahead and raise your hand, I will start a queue in terms of going through when that Q&A portion starts. So again, thank you everybody for joining. And what I'll do is move into the next question because we talked about the highs, we talked about how to kind of move in and around business. But I wanted to ask you all, because this is COVID, a lot of people have taken losses. And so what are some of the pitfalls that you didn't foresee when creating your online e-commerce business outside of COVID, and how did you recover and find a solution to that problem that you were facing? And I'll start off with Marcella.
All right. So this is a tough question because we're in such a different climate now than we were before. but something that has remained steady is how long it takes to actually build out a custom website. I got started on Etsy years ago and had, thankfully, most of my inventory in place. And I also had a Shopify site. When the pandemic hit, I decided I really wanted to redefine my website and make it more user-friendly. And so I started to do that. It took me about 8 months in total to launch the new site. And I do think, what do you have to learn from this? It is, to start now, to start early. If you think that there is a more optimized way for you to sell online, don't wait. Because it does take a while to really refine the user experience and make sure that you have all the right kind of plugins. And, if you have variations to your product, for example, that could essentially triple or quadruple the kind of work you need to do to get everything online in terms of, the utility of it. It's really important. So, I guess that was a pitfall. Another thing for me that is kind of a roller coaster is sourcing certain products that go along that are kind of adjacent to mine. So I sell open edition art prints that I create and produce. I also sell frames. And so frames for me has been kind of a headache because my wholesale vendor has been pretty inconsistent with what is in stock. And that is due to a number of factors. As we know, shipping is totally crazy right now internationally. And so it's been kind of unpredictable what frames I could source for my own website. So that's another kind of pitfall. And in terms of anticipating it, I don't know how I could have, but that's been kind of a headache.
Okay, and to you, the same question. Can you speak to the pitfalls that you have faced and how you kind of created that pivot and navigated it around it? And are you still going through it? Is it something that you've overcome already?
Well, it's weird because like during COVID, it's weird. I didn't really have any pitfalls outside of like what Marcella said was just sourcing things. Like that's been the toughest part because once that happened, like sourcing materials or sourcing certain things, it was tough because a lot of times just the shipping or just the regulations because different companies was going through different things or different states with different COVID levels. So that was like the hardest pitfall really. But the thing that you do to combat that I learned just is to build relationships and network over time. Like don't put all your eggs in one basket and be able to have different places to source from, or at least if you know this is your main source, have two or three in the back and say, okay, this is not my main one, but I know I can go to them for what I need if things get tricky. Because I know one of the biggest issues I had at one point, this is pre-COVID, but I was dealing with a company, but it was a husband and wife company, and they got divorced, and the company just it went. So that was like, okay, when that happened, it was like, where do I go? Who do I, But by having a good network and having followers, so it's like, okay, I can't go to them. You make sure you have two or three other sources that you can go to just in case when times get hard. Because like I said, we could never forecast COVID. We never saw it coming. It was not something that, we've never seen it. Like in my lifetime, I've never experienced anything like this. But it was just, okay, this is what's going on. Now, what is it that I can do to adjust? And really, all you can do is just continue to be faithful that your business will make it through. Continue to put the work in, continue to utilize every resource you have, because again, like this is just a thing that you can't really forecast. Like you just have to really more so build that platform and that foundation as you go, because I don't want to discourage people. That's why I'm trying to make sure I word it right. I don't want to discourage people from thinking that like, oh, once something bad happens or if this happens, that business stops. It doesn't stop. It's just more so that you have to think on your feet per se, and then just like I said, have those secondary areas you can go to so that you can get the materials you need or a service or something like that. Because with COVID, it caused shipping prices to go up. I'm sure Miss Marcella can attest. Like the prices jumped where if you want to get something at a like a normal time, you would have to pay overnight prices. So just, you know, having different sources, different people you could reach out to, because that really helped me, is having that network of people that I've met that can get me to certain items that I needed to keep business going. That was like one of the biggest things that I dealt with, but that's how I pivoted, by having a network of people to help me, you know, accomplish what I needed to keep it going. And we still been able to go. Like, you know, a year later, things didn't really slow down. So God is good.
Thank you for that, Ed. And you all have been very thorough today. So what I'm going to do is, I saw a hand raised, and we're lowering Art. I'm going to unmute your mic and you can ask your question. I just sent you a request.
So can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'm going to start my first Instagram account. I haven't done it yet. And where do you finding people that are going to see your Instagram account? How do you get followers?
Marcella, you want me to go?
Yeah, sure. So start small, right? You have to start small because you are small. So interacting with the circle that you already know on Instagram, and perhaps asking them to share your work with their networks is one way. You know, another way is collaborating with other artists so that their markets are exposed to you and your work. And then another thing you can do is, and Shannon recommended this earlier, which is to tag relevant networks in your posts. So you can tag things starting with a hashtag, right? That pound sign.
With a hashtag.
With relevant things that are, you know, perhaps thematically adjacent to what it is that you're sharing. You can also, you know, engage with other networks, and they have specific hashtags, like the Made in DC program, for example. They, you know, tell people what their hashtag is. So think about your product or your art from the other perspective. So from that consumer side, and what is it that they're going to think of about what you're offering to the world? Put a hashtag in front of that. That's a good start.
Okay, that's good.
Did you want to add anything to that, Ed?
Yeah, I would say just start social media. Is the hashtags are probably the most important thing. Are you familiar with hashtags?
Yeah, no, I don't know hashtags either.
So a hashtag would, like Marcella says, the pound symbol. So what the hashtag does, so say you have artwork, right? So you put hashtag beautiful artwork. So if you click that hashtag, it might be other posts that have somebody that hashtag beautiful artwork, but your post will fall under that. So somebody can be scrolling just that specific hashtag and see your items or your work and say, okay, I'm interested in that. And then that's a starter to help them come to your page, you know, by the hashtags and things like that. But you have up to 30 hashtags per post. So you can come up, you can look at hashtags, or you can come up with your own specific for your brand. So as your brand goes, if somebody clicks a specific hashtag that only your brand uses, then they'll see only content or products and things specifically from your brand or from customers who used it and hashtagged it. And that's how it grows. You know, you just, like Marcella said, you start small, and hashtags is a simple concept, and it does help. It definitely helps.
I didn't know that. That's great.
And did you want to, Shannon, add anything to that in terms of how to help grow social media?
Not really. I mean, I think both Marcella and Edward covered like all of the basics. The hashtags are important. Definitely engage with your community. Engagement matters. So, you know, as much as you want others to follow you, you also need to be engaging your community and making sure that you're following them as well. And because again, it just continues to help you to build your network so that people can, you know, genuinely say, hey, I'm going to drop your, you know, your artwork or whatever in their story or in their post to share. And really that's how it takes off from there. But to Marcella's point, I would say, you know, one step at a time, day by day. Like, don't go into it thinking that you are going to master it, because I think Edward mentioned the algorithm can be a beast, right? And so as much as, things will start going well for you, there'll come a block. So as you begin to navigate, master your posts, master your hashtag, start tagging other entities that definitely are, promoting This Is Made in DC as one to really help you to get that out there, and then begin to explore all of the other options within Instagram, which would be maybe a live or maybe a pre-recorded video in your stories to really introduce yourself. I would just say, in starting your social, just be yourself, be genuinely who you are, and really just try to show the story of who you are and what your business is, because people definitely want to buy in and support who you are as a way for them to actually be your consumer for your good or service.
Very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. We appreciate that engagement. So I do have some questions that people are writing in the chat. And so the first one that I see is, do you have any recommendation apps for your email list, for your newsletter on your website? And I'll start with Ed. Did you want to take that? In terms of, do you have any apps that you would recommend, is what I'm understanding
like
that to be.
to gather emails, like an app you can use.
Yeah, for your email list, or like a news blast that you send out. I think Survey Monkey and Constant Contact is something that I'm familiar with.
I'm familiar with the same one, Survey Monkey. Was it MailChimp? It was another really good app, but I cannot. The name slipped my mind. But
I use Klaviyo for my newsletter. Klaviyo. Yeah.
And newsletters are important because it keeps the customer engaged to you. Even if they might have forgot what they say, okay, well, Marcella's coming out with new artwork, I need to check it out, or the new spring line, or that's very helpful when it comes to business. Just giving the customer an insight of what do you have coming, so that they can prepare as well, and it just gives it a better overall look.
Okay, and so this, Shannon, is a question specific to you. And it says, is there data from Made in DC for sales from marketing?
So I would just need some additional clarification. Made in DC is not a e-commerce site in and of itself. Through our website, although the business logo will live there, that will directly route the individual to your e-commerce site. So they are making all of their purchases or transactions directly from your e-commerce site, not through Made in DC. I hope that kind of clears things up a little bit. If not, definitely drop it in the chat and I'll try to give you a different answer.
Yeah, and then we have Adrian Mumim, and they said, I'd love to hear more about Facebook or IG shops, particularly related to mid-tier, unique, fine art creations. So Facebook and IG shops. Did you, Marcella, did you have any?
Oh,
go ahead, Shannon.
I
No, go ahead.
Something about businesses utilizing Instagram or Facebook as a e-commerce tool, or that people can go in and you can create a actual shop where they are able to see highlights of your products and things directly from those social media accounts. So it might be something to explore if you're actively going through and building the e-commerce, or how to really route people to there. And the reason why I mention that is because if you've captured them on the social media platform, if it's easier for them to see how they then can go to purchase and buy in one full swoop versus now having to route to a different website or something like that, it might be worth exploring those two options. Go ahead, Marcella. I think you were going to add something else.
Honestly, you just said what I was going to say. In terms of utility, it's way more efficient for your consumer to, get hooked and then also purchase on the same platform. So just as you described, there's a way in which you can click on the shop and see all of the posts that have tagged products in them. So that way people can, you know, check out right there. So, and that is all kind of developing. I think that's moving really fast right now. So we're going to see a lot more of that in the next year.
And that's the best way now I've been seeing, because it limits that time where people have to go to the website and
Totally.
because people just that little bit of time, people don't want to do that. They see something right at that moment, having it on the Instagram shop, and they can click directly to purchase. That's the best way to operate it. And the same with Facebook, like just having that direct access from consumer to product or consumer to service, it makes it easier. It gives the person it gives them less time to, I guess, think if they should buy it or not, because on impulse, if they see it, they can immediately click, and it's good for, you know, for the seller as well.
The other thing I would say too is, don't discount the idea of repetition. I know you don't want to exhaust your consumer, but sharing what it is you have to offer on stories on Facebook, as well as on a post on your Instagram, is a good way to kind of slow drip marketing. You know, as you know, think of it yourself as a consumer. You know, you don't usually immediately commit. It takes a little bit of time. So it's nice to introduce what it is you have to offer, you know, a few different times on a few different platforms, and recognize that that's a really strong way to really win your consumer.
Yes, and we have another question. I think this one was directed at you, Marcella, as it relates to Venmo. And it was a question about do they not have purchase protection?
Oh, that I don't know.
Okay.
I do not know.
Thank you for that. Sometimes
the best answer. Know about the innards of
purchase? I do not.
Yeah, sorry.
I do not. And I appreciate that we have people up here that will not give you any wrong miscellaneous advice that they have no knowledge on, because we have that level of integrity. So
that's right.
We thank you for that question. But that is something that maybe I can have somebody follow up with on. Any ideas? Oh, another question. So from Judy Cohall, any ideas on how I can monetize poetry?
Yeah, it's simple. Take your poetry and you reach out, say for a business, like for poetry, right? Reach out to a business and you maybe can create a jingle for them using your poetry, or some sort of commercial using your poetry, some sort of narration using your poetry, where maybe they might create a visual for their brand using your poetry, things like that, because it's a service-based type of thing. So you have to be creative, but reach out to people in that field, because you can use that same talent. Because I saw it come across the chat and I would start thinking, like, how could you monetize poetry? But imagine, you know, I'm creating a visual for my beard products, and I might have someone create me a poem about grooming, you know, use that. You reach out. Social media, use your platform, you know, post yourself, write your, you know, speak your poems, talk about them, things like that.
Something else.
Holiday cards, things like that.
How about a YouTube video?
Like YouTube.
We haven't talked about YouTube at all, but you can monetize YouTube.
And I was about to say that as not an employee of the DC Commission on Arts and Humanities, I do write poetry. I wrote my first book, which is a series of poems mixed with political assessments and analysis. And to her point, you can use YouTube to monetize, talk about and give more and be creative in terms of giving people more insights into poems. You can also create spaces to where you can have like smaller sessions just due to COVID, in terms of having people critique the work and having them be think pieces and move around them in that way. And just also, if you are a poet, you're usually a strong writer. So I will also say, for a person like myself, who, if you take the art of writing and just think of it as a skill set, you can also like monetize it in a way of doing speech writing. They're politicians, they're people who love and need writers. That's an actual job. So there's other ways that you can double down on that skill set. And again, because I know like writing for being a speechwriter isn't necessarily the same thing, but in terms of, you know, figuring out how to monetize, you could be writing for somebody and use that network and use their network because you wrote in speeches for them to possibly create that funnel back around to what it is, your poetry. And so those are some, you know, creative ways to do that. But that's an interesting question. And poetry in that way is very diverse, and just the art of rhetoric in itself. So I would say just definitely go to the drawing board and think about, you know, some ways of how you would want to just separate the skill set. And like he said, use Instagram and a lot of different other platforms to kind of highlight. And like, even for myself, if you write, say, a 2-page poem, you can take certain clips and create and drive certain content back to your like YouTube if you start a channel. And did anybody else want to speak to that question?
I would just add, I think Edward hit the nail on the head. If you're looking to monetize on your poetry from print, like the option of printing, I think you have so many endless options in how you can go about doing that. The one thing that popped in mind to me was, to Edward's point, a collaboration, a partnership with some of your local greeting card companies, posters, just any of those things. I think it might be a good way. One thing that came to mind, art and poetry, they go, you know, kind of together. I think you can definitely monetize if you're looking from a print aspect, for sure. Someone dropped in the chat and said call hallmarks. You could even do that. I mean, I know that there are a lot of locally made greeting card companies that you can probably reach out to go about maybe collabing or getting some of your words printed in their cards as well.
Okay, and I don't, could I apply for a grant? It says, could I apply for a grant from DC Con Arts to publish a book that includes drawings and poems together? Is that short for commission? Curl Morgan? Yes. So that's a question that I can personally follow back up with you in regard to from out of our house in terms of being able to access that through a grant. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head, but what I'll do is I will leave this email here in the chat if you want to leave yours as well. And if anybody has any specific questions to the DC Commission on Arts and Humanities, feel free to take this email, use it, and I will get back to any concerns that I can't necessarily answer here today, right now on this call. Thank you for dropping your email. I appreciate that. And so, did we have any more questions? I don't see any hands raised.
I think one just came through the chat, Devon.
Okay.
One came in the chat. It says, how did you go about getting the email list for your newsletter?
So I don't personally have a newsletter. If Ed, you wanted to answer that question.
Me personally, I don't use newsletters because I look at my demographic, and most people that I utilize, I send more like DMs on social media because for the most part everybody's on there, or I get their email. But I didn't really do like a newsletter per se. I just more like make a post. But like I was speaking earlier, you can use like MailChimp, different apps like that to create a platform, and then you can send out whatever it is, newsletters. But I think with this one, Marcella probably has a better direct
sure.
idea
Yeah.
of what
So
exactly.
I think the question is, how did I grow my fan base, right? In terms of the email list. So through a number of different ways. It started out analog, literally a clipboard at art fairs, people writing down their email. Okay, so then I went through and transcribed those, and that, again, that's how it started like 8 years ago or something. So that was kind of the beginning of it. And then right away, having an email or having a website, you can have an email sign up for the newsletter. And so that, as of recent, is how I kind of like harvest all of those emails. So people sign up. Usually there's an incentive to signing up. So if they, put their email on my list, they get 15% off their first order. And so again, an incentive for engaging with my brand is certainly a benefit to that person. So once you start your own website, there is an option to create, a plugin for whatever newsletter source you use, whether it's MailChimp or the one that I use, Klaviyo. What other ones are there? I feel like MailChimp is probably the most popular.
Yes.
In terms of, it's very user-friendly as well. So essentially you can plug in a welcome message from MailChimp onto your website platform. And that's how you can grow your email list in this day and age.
Okay, so I don't see, somebody asked, and you all spoke to this earlier a little bit, the value in Instagram ads. I guess the question is there like any value despite them, of course, being a tool, but is there any value in that tool in terms of ROI?
I have to answer that. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. Social media, especially Instagram ads, because when you do the ads, it actually shows like your potential reach, and depending on the price you pay, it'll show you how many people that it could potentially reach over this time frame of days. And I've used it before. I think a lot of people who have had businesses, we tried it, and it does work. It has worked because it brings a lot of times it brings new followers to the page, new views, and just if you do an advertisement on a specific post, maybe a specific product you're selling or a specific review or something like that, and you pump that ad, it gets viewed by more people, and that gets more clicks to the site or clicks to your page, which can bring in more sales. And I just say from experience and investing in ads, I've seen the return that I put out on the ad come back within a couple of hours. So
yeah,
it's definitely
something else I would add to that, and Edward, you did mention this, is promoting an already existed post. So say on Instagram, you had a really popular post with lots of engagement, lots of likes. That's an indicator that may tell you that should be one that you should promote. And so that verb, to promote, means you are paying Facebook company, because they own Instagram, a certain fee. And so knowing that, that you've had a really popular post in the past, that might be a good start for which one might have this kind of snowball engagement that Edward was speaking about.
Same with now if you want to like with Facebook, and like I said, with Facebook is owns Instagram, so you tie your social medias together and you advertise, it'll help boost it. You'll get even more because you can advertise on Facebook as well. And Twitter, I don't know if they have that platform yet. I heard they was developing something like that where they'll have like a pay to advertise a specific post or something like that. And it does help, because if you want to get views or you want to get more subscribers and things like that, it can help. Just for a simple example, if you say on Instagram you have a $5 budget per day or $10 budget per day for 5 days, it'll give you an indicator that you'll get between maybe just say 2,000 to 5,000 views or people to by spending that amount of money. But if you get 2,000 to 5,000 views by spending $30 over a 5-day span, and then they spend it per the day, it might like in a specific post, it can really carry and travel, and it'll be one of them things where now that same post that may had 100 likes, by the end of this ad, it might have 500 with 400 comments and things like that. And that gives people the not just for yourself, but like it gives the new customer. If I see a post with this much engagement, it makes me look at it and say, okay, they have something here, or that's a nice shirt, or this is a nice service. Maybe I need to indulge, and it gives it a better look for you as a business owner as well. It helps just create that engagement. And that's the thing, like, especially just starting out new, creating engagement is the biggest thing, because you can have all the product in the world, but if you don't have people to come see it and buy it, then what do you really have? So creating engagement is the key, and social media and those ads really help with that.
I think it's important to mention, in terms of the potential here, the reason that these paid posts are so robust is because you can really target your audience. So I feel like, Ed, you speak way more about that. You do this more regularly than I do, but who do you target when you create an ad?
Well,
Can you walk us through that?
When I create an ad, I'd be totally honest, I usually let Instagram do it, because I notice when I do it.
So there's an option that says.
It's an option.
Yeah.
It's an option that says you can say do it automatic, or you can break it down specifically. But the hard part, when you break it down specifically, it kind of limits you, because a lot of times people forget that you got foreign people, like international sales. You have different time zones, different things that you have to put in there to get the maximum from that ad. But if you have them do it automatically, it helps, because they kind of have the Instagram already has like the stats basically of your demographic. So it'll say, okay, if you have 75% males and 25% women, it'll kind of push it to that demographic more. And then it'll also it'll tell you that, okay, like you said, if this post is doing well, and it gives you an option, if it'll tell you to boost this post, because it's letting you know the potential of it. Like if Marcella posts a painting and a frame, and that frame is very, 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 very good, and people like it, you boost that post, which makes them come not only to see the frame, but then they'll check out everything else you have. And it's any business, it's marketing. You can't get all marketing for free, but you know that does help. And then just the social media aspect of, I'm sorry guys, I'm going all over the place, but when it comes to the ads, it's good to do it automatically, because it doesn't just target like in your vicinity. Because a lot of times when you do it automatically, you might have just these certain states and this and that, where if you do it automatically, it'll send that same ad, and people in California can see it, someone in North Dakota can see it, Alaska. So now it's growing that foundation, and it's growing that platform for people from all over to check out what you have.
Okay. And so for the sake of time, I'm gonna just ask this last question. Do you know any print on demand companies in DC we can work with? I can't speak to that in terms of print demand company in DC. But if you all knew of any print demand companies
It's kind of depends. What's the end game? Like art, like prints, or like what I do, or
clothing?
What are you trying to produce?
For mugs.
Mugs?
I'm not sure.
So my name is Mentwab Eastwarren. I am a designer who designs mugs. I have a Shopify shop that I'm selling with. But the overall, the marketing and the Shopify itself and everything takes so much time away from me doing the specific artwork that I want to do. And I was looking into print on demand to see whether I can take it somewhere and just focus on my artwork. But what I discover is that, there is a plugin in Shopify that you can use, but how directly to communicate with them and see the quality of their work when it's printed, I'm having a little bit of, how to engage with them, communicate with print-on-demand companies. Is there any kind of consultation you can give me on that?
I think it really depends on what it is you want to produce. And in most cases, these companies will send you samples of what it is that they have to offer. One that comes to mind is one in Virginia called Custom Ink. I would look them up.
So to Ed or Shannon have any, with the clarification of the question, did you all have anything before we begin to close out?
No, I think Marcella, she kind of pretty much, I think there are definitely bigger name printing companies that you can kind of begin to just research. You have your Zazzles, your Vistaprint, some of those companies that can do it. I always say, definitely look for the collab. Make sure that you're joining other Facebook groups or through social where there are a community of others that are doing similar things, and really tap in and ask for that share of who they are using to produce those products.
I think the other thing too is do your homework. Definitely get a few options. Don't just go with one. In terms of, we were talking about the vendors and stuff that we use. It's good to have a few different options. So if it's mugs that you want to produce, order samples of 4 different ones from 4 different print-on-demand places. And Google, we live in the age of, the information highway. Utilize it. It would be my advice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, I want to thank everybody for coming out and joining us today. I want to thank all of the panel members, sincere thank yous, or give sincere thank yous for the robust and nice informative conversation that we all had today. Again, if you want to connect with any of these people, they are on Instagram. They put their contacts in the chat. And then also our friend over here, Shannon, is from DSLBD. She's also put her information within the chat. So if you all want to go ahead as well, and I know they have everything up on their website over at DSLBD. And as for the Commission on Arts and Humanities, I had put my email within the actual chat. So if you have any questions today that you would like to be answered that we didn't get answered as it relates to the Commission on Arts and Humanities, feel free to email me, and that's Devon, DEVON, .Lesesne, LESESNE, @dc.gov. And thank you all. Enjoy this day. It's a nice day outside for all of those who are with us here in DC. If you're not, welcome. And enjoy the rest of your day. And we will meet you all and see you all again. Thank you.